I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the Cryptid Podcast tonight. I'm your host Daniel, and I just want to say thank you so much for all the support you guys have given this channel over the last few months. We're growing steadily and I really appreciate it. I just want to get this out there, so if anybody out there has had an encounter and you'd like to be a member on the show, or a guest on the show I should say, feel free to shoot me an email. My email address is thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Now, what we have tonight for you guys is a really cool encounter. It's a Class B encounter. And my guest tonight is Kelly. She's from Montana. And what she was doing is she was out backpacking near Mount Hood area called Bull of the Woods. And she had a pretty strange experience. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her on very shortly. But again, if anybody would like to come on the show, you've had an encounter, please email me at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Kelly on the show. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about this.
So I reached out to you after seeing one of your posts that you had put on one of the groups that we're both part of. And you have it's a pretty interesting story, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get the camera on you and just and let you tell that story.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things you don't forget. You know, it's like as intense now as it was when it happened. My husband and I had 3 boys, very, very, very active. And they'd get in trouble if they were left on their own. So we started backpacking with them, I think about starting age 5. And just little short trips. And anyway, we built up till we were just like world-class backpackers going to extreme places. Well, one of our easy continue, when we needed to get out was Bull of the Woods. It wasn't too far from Portland, and it was always nice. It was always beautiful. And there was really never ran into anybody, but we knew the trails and we knew where the cougar lived. We didn't go on that side of the lake anymore. This was a really strange trip. And it started, we were going up, climbing up towards, let's see, there's Pansy Lake. I can't remember all the lakes, but there's a fire shelter, or a watchtower up there at the very top, and we were decided to go up there for and then around that way down to the lake. And so anyway, we came to around a really steep bend, and there was this tree, and it had just been freshly carved, chopped up. My husband, he kept saying, I don't think grizzlies are this tall. And I mean, it was a huge old growth, and it had just been, it wouldn't have lived. It would have been, it was destroyed. And the wood everywhere. So he kept saying, this has got to be, 10 feet high. So we were like, okay, well, we better be careful. There may be something that's a little bit bigger than a grizzly out here. And we came down, we went down around the top and down we were heading down towards the lake. And we came around this really sharp bend. And we had not been on this trail, on this side. So it was new to us, but it was very sharp and, like a switchback, but it wasn't climbing very much. So we go around it, and it got just suddenly, it's almost a straight drop off, down, looking down on our right side and straight up on our left side. And I was like, wow, it was just really cool. So we were hiking along there, and, we had the kids in between us when we did things that were kind of iffy. We did that. And my husband said, do you smell that? I was like, yeah, it smells like garbage. No, he says it smells like decomposing garbage. So it just got stronger and stronger. We're still watching the drop offs, and occasionally we were getting wet by the little runoffs from the top. Yeah, it was horrid. It was horrid. We kept thinking, we'll get out of this soon. We'll get out of this soon. It can't be that much further to get away from the smell. We heard something above us, too heavy to be a deer. And we both were looking up, trying to figure out, what that noise was. And a rock came down. And when the rock came down, it sounded like rocks or big chunks of wood hitting trees, just going, hit it, and it was noisy. And then the rocks started coming down. Kids were all three in grade school, and we were just trying to figure out what, go forward or, go back. And still trying to figure out why we were having an avalanche. So they got bigger and bigger, these things. And it got to where they were throwing them over the trail. They were throwing them so hard. So what we did is you just had this intense feeling something was going out to get you. They were watching you. They could see you. You couldn't see them. And they were after you. I just yelled, run. And all of us started running. And we had bear bells on and running down the trail, trying to get away from this. We kept going. We were quite a ways in, and none of us wanted to camp out. There was no way we were going to camp out that night. So we ended up going home, and we never went there again, hiking there again. But we did 3 years ago. We did go up there and scattered one of our son's ashes up there. They loved it up there, so it seemed like the appropriate place. And it was just a one-day hike in, hike out. But do you have any questions?
Okay, so that is, quite a bit to digest. Because, like you said, you'd been going, to this area for quite some time. And before that time happened, did anything ever happen to where it stood out like it did just that time?
There were times we were very uneasy up there. We knew there was a cougar because there were tracks and there was a den, and we just stayed away from that area. So we would if we started feeling like that, we would take our boys and put it, we'd go in the tent. And I think I'd usually leave the flap of the tent open so I could just scoot all, dinner prep over in front of the door, and we didn't go back out. And we usually just kind of made the decision at that time, we're not going to go further in, we're going out.
Okay. So when this happened, what type of day was it?
It was overcast, and it had been not really raining. It's just that moisture in the air. So the leaves and moss dripped.
Yeah. And about what time of the day was it?
I'd say about 3:00
in the afternoon. So again, you're just walking a trail, and then you kind of went off trail a little bit.
Yep.
And then, like you said, one side you had a drop off, the other side you had pretty much like a cliff. And this thing just started raining. Was it like the first rock came down, and then all of a sudden just a lot of them came down?
Yeah. The first one, it was just a big, one that came down that was, like this big around. And we're looking up there going, wow, my husband said, how is that possible? It's way away from the edge of the cliff,
So it wasn't like a rock slide. This stuff was like coming
oh yeah,
out and then like something was tossing it. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then it turned into, I'll swear there was a lot of them up there by then, and it might not have been, but they were coming down at us. They were being thrown over the trail. There was branches coming down, and it was absolutely. I mean, we were under attack, and we didn't know why we were under attack.
So no, was it all coming like into the same area, or what I'm trying to figure out is you're walking down this trail where was some of the stuff coming down in
Hmm.
front of you, coming down around the area you were
Oh, I
at,
see.
and
Okay, I see
coming
what you
down
mean.
behind you, or was it just concentrated in one area, so to speak?
In one area, we stopped. That one came down, and we stopped, and we're looking up like, is this safe to walk on this trail with these kids?
Okay.
And then you could hear scuffling, and after that torn up tree, my husband said, if that's a grizzly bear with her young, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So he was feeling pretty uneasy just for that. But we had been around bear. I've never smelled anything like this. This wasn't a bear smell. We had ran across scat earlier, and it was full of fur and stuff, and it was dark. It was huge,
Really?
absolutely
What
huge. It was not, and it stunk.
now I was a Boy Scout, and one way to kind of test scat is you poke it to see how fresh it is.
Well,
Now I'm
this
not
is pretty
asking.
fresh.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, did it appear fresh? Because I like I don't want to get your fingers dirty, in the thing. But so, do you suspect that maybe there might have been more than one? Up.
Yeah, we did. We figured what we decided, and at that time, we didn't even say Bigfoot. We just stuck with, okay, it's bigger than a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Um, but it was so outlandish we didn't tell anybody.
Well, now you mentioned the tree. You said it was carved up. About how tall was this tree?
It was a big old growth.
Big old growth. And then, okay, so then about how high up? And what were you seeing?
Maybe 10 feet. It was just shredded like claws. It
Really?
just shredded it.
Now, did you ever see any other signs around that area? Because they say, you see stick structures or people say that they'll mark an area with like the crossing of some trees that are fallen or some branches, or have you seen anything like that in that area?
No, there's a lot of undergrowth. So I have not seen that. But it's supposed to be a pretty popular place for them. They find beds in there, and
Really? And again, this
it
is
has everything they
in
need.
Bull of the Woods. So, wow.
But
Now,
this was in 95.
yeah, that was it. You said
Yeah,
1995.
yeah.
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean,
They may
like
live a long
seriously.
time.
Oh yeah. And you said you had heard some like wood knocking. Now, did you hear any type of maybe vocalizations or anything like that
I
you
would
can
like to
recall?
say yes, and it was more bear-like, but I'm thinking it was just, uh, was that something I projected because it should have been there? I don't know. I just know at that point I was petrified because of the cacophony of trees being hit and what sounded like a wind, strong wind, and rocks being thrown all over the place.
Now, how big were like some of the big were they all pretty much the same size, or were some of them like big, like, okay, that rock is way too big,
There were some, this big around.
like bigger than a bowling ball,
So, oh yeah, something I would never be able to pick up.
and they were just lobbing them like they were nothing?
Now
Wow.
those you could tell had to come with force because they didn't throw them down on us. They threw them out like they were trying to heave.
Right.
So they never hit the trail. They just kept going down. And
So
so
when
that was my impression is, okay, that's the limit of the strength of this
right.
is to pick up 600-pound boulder.
So you're thinking about this now. So you see this big boulder come down, roughly 300-pound boulder, possibly, and it's being lobbed over the path that you guys are walking on. Was that about the time that you're like, okay, I know that's not a bear tossing that down over us? Is that when the time you're like, okay, it's time to go?
Yeah, no, that's when I yelled run. And I just was getting my kids out of there as fast as possible. I'm trying, you just struck a memory of something, and now I just forgot it. I'll think of it.
Um,
The noise was, okay, it's like a freaking cartoon,
how so?
when you think about it. No, just the noise, and all of a sudden we're out there, we hear bird song and water running from somewhere, and then that.
So when you guys took off out of there, do you think it pursued you or they pursued you? Did you hear or feel like something was coming up behind you or alongside you?
No, not really. That's a good question. I'm thinking probably maybe 100 yards, and all of a sudden it just felt the stench was gone, and um, the feeling, that pressure, and the noise was disappearing.
So
I can't describe the noise.
now, when you're talking about noise, are you talking about, because you also mentioned that you looked up and you saw like trees shaking.
Yeah, swaying.
And how big were these trees? Like how big around in diameter?
Um, you know, a normal
So
sized pine tree out in the woods.
okay, so you're talking roughly like a foot in diameter
Uh-huh.
or
And the
bigger.
the tops were whipping back and forth, and that's what it was so confusing. It was just really a confusing, because it was like, where did this come from, and where's the noise coming from? Why are these trees shaking? I'm looking around for the storm's coming in.
Right,
That's the first thought. My husband's was a bear. Mine was a storm.
right. Well, I mean, growing up in that area, I mean, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest as well. I grew up in Washington State primarily, and I've seen documentaries where bears, especially grizzly bears, they'll push on a tree, but
Mm-hmm.
they push and then they push off and then they use their weight to come back down. And the way you're describing it, it sounds like something was holding the tree and
And shaking it.
whipping it back and forth. Yeah, okay. So okay, I'm trying to go on the same route as your husband with the bear, but everything that you're saying does not match up with what a bear is capable of doing.
We kept going. No, it would have been charging at us, not throwing rocks at us.
Yeah.
We And like I said, we're looking up the trail because they're above. So, or do they have to come down around to get down to the trail, or can they, or heaven forbid, can they jump?
About how high up on this little ridge were they on?
Oh gosh, I would say tall as a 2-story house or 3-story house
So a good
building.
20, 30 feet.
Mhm. Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Wow.
never
And
saw anything, but I wasn't really watching up there. I was just trying to assess it.
you had so much stuff going on
Yeah,
all at the
like I said,
same
it
time.
started out with one, and then it just slowly increased, and the noise increased, and a dog keeps trying to get on my lap. So it,
Well, I think I could tell you, I think I figured out why it increased. Because y'all were not paying attention when the first rock comes slinging down on you guys.
no,
So you guys were dumbfounded. You're like, what's going on up there? And then they said, you know what? They're not getting the hint. We got something going on in this area, and those people are not understanding. Don't come around here. So
the whole village out here.
exactly. So about how long did that happen?
I don't have a time frame. I have thought about this over the years. What was the time frame? How long were we there? Um, it seemed like it lasted for quite a while. But I can't imagine us standing there with rocks coming down all around us with
And with 3 young kids.
mhm.
So, yeah, that's and when you guys said you guys took off, um, how long did it take you to get back to your campsite?
Well, we were backpacking.
Okay.
It took us. We ended up sleeping down at. There's a lake down towards the bottom, and then heading out that morning
So
because we were in this. You can go up there the straight way, or you can go up there the way we did, all over the freaking mountain. And
so
that's what we do.
so after that happened, you guys decided just to go down towards the lake and camp and did not leave the area.
I don't think we slept.
Oh my goodness, Kelly, that's crazy.
We ran and we ran and we ran, and our youngest was 5 at the time. So we alternated picking him up and running, and he had his little backpack on, and he was
Yeah.
crying. The kids
yeah.
were scared to death.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. Oh wow, we're running into a bear. Shake our bear bells. No, it wasn't fun like at all. It was terrifying.
Now, later in life, as they got older, did you guys ever kind of sit down and discuss, hey, do you remember that time we went backpacking and Dad said that there was a bear and all of a sudden rocks were getting thrown down and trees? And did you guys
I,
ever sit down and discuss that? And did they ever come up with an idea what it possibly was?
no, by the time I thought of doing that, my oldest had died.
Mm,
But
sorry to hear
the
that.
other two were like, we were so young, and they just took it in.
Right.
They don't have really much memory of
Yeah.
most of those backpacking trips back then.
Well, it's one thing. Kids are, they're very resilient. So, they have the ability to mentally protect themselves from things like
Okay.
that. So,
I have an ending to this story. 3 years ago, we took my 2 other sons and me and my oldest son's 6-year-old up to spread his ashes. And that was one of the places he loved being up there. So we took his ashes up there, and it was, we decided we were going to camp up there and everything. And I had an encounter. I heard something going around the tent, and I'm thinking, oh God, it's they're back. We're back here and it's back, right? So he's trying to unzip the zipper. And I have my little 6-year-old, and he's autistic, so I had put one of those luggage padlocks on it, so he couldn't open it up when I was asleep. This thing was trying to open that up, so I was frightened. I was thinking, there's no way we can run with a tent on us. So all of a sudden I heard him come around and back to the back, and I had the window rolled up because it was hot. I saw Shaggy, and you can't believe what I felt like. I had a flashlight and a gun. I shined the flashlight and the gun together on his face, and I scared some pervert that followed me through the woods for the day. He took off running.
Whoa, okay, so you had some person.
Yeah, but I was thinking it was the
Well,
Bigfoot
no
back.
kidding. Well, no kidding. If you're in the same area,
Yeah.
Holy smokes! I'll tell you right now.
That man was lucky he didn't get smoked. Really.
I'm prior military. Okay, I've been all over the world. I've been in the woods my entire life growing up. As far back as I can remember, I've gone deep in the woods and played and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I am more afraid of some person running into some random person where there really should not be any other people. Or if I do run into other people, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. But when you have something like that happen, yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Good for you having that gun with you. I applaud you on that. So
Well, when I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's a good thing I found out that he was a man, not Bigfoot.
yeah,
And it's middle of the night. Your mind goes right back.
yeah,
So afterwards, I'm sitting there thinking, why? I'm up here with my grandson. We're by ourselves. It's the day before. We're supposed to meet everybody.
yeah,
I'm 8 miles in.
yeah,
Where did he come from?
yeah, for real. I have a story of a friend of mine, his stepdaughter's dad was out fly fishing with a friend of his, and he just had this feeling like I got to turn around. And he turned around, and there was a disheveled looking man standing behind him, kind of up on the path.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his hand behind his back. Now, I don't recall if the story goes if his daughter's dad had a firearm on him or not, but when he turned around, and I guess he may have, the guy's eyes got really wide, and he dropped something and took off running up the hill, up into the woods. And when he came up to that path where there was a rock that he had dropped, like this guy was going to come up behind him. So see, that's I'm telling you, that's what kind of scares me. But
that was my last trip. I was like, okay, if it's gotten this unsafe to go backpacking,
yeah,
I can deal with an animal, but I'm not going to.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, animals, you kind of know what they're going to do in a way. Okay, it's a bear. You can make yourself look bigger. You can make it, like you said, you had bear bells and everything like that. They're gonna stay away from humans. They're gonna try to get away if possible, except for circumstances like you said, like a sow with her cubs or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. A mountain lion. Yeah, those guys are a little more unpredictable.
I got one in my backyard.
Yeah,
I'm in the mountains up here.
yeah. So, but hey, Kelly, I just want to say thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming on and us finally connecting. I know we were supposed to do this last week, but you know what? It's a pleasure one, you and I are pretty much from the same area. We already
Yeah.
established that Kent, Washington, and Tacoma here.
Yeah.
And then
Well, it like I said, it had been a favorite place until then.
yeah,
We saw bear through there, and you just got your mind doesn't wrap itself. Back in '95, it wasn't as people didn't see him as often.
yeah,
Your mind just didn't go there. Your mind goes to, why is there people up there throwing things down at us?
yeah, absolutely.
It's maybe, like you said, a sow with her babes.
Yeah,
I don't know, but there was more than one.
absolutely. And a sow's not going to sit there and throw rocks at you. A sow is going to come at you. So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go ahead and close our show.
All right.
Everybody, I just want to say, you want to hang out for just for a minute after the outro plays. But
Okay.
everybody, I just want to say thank you so much again, Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on. And you guys, remember, things are unpredictable when you're out there and you're doing your thing. Just make sure, one, people know where you're at. Number two, be armed if you're able to be armed. Be careful out there. And again, if anybody's had any encounters out there and you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free to shoot me an email. My email is the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com. And with that being said, as my buddy Josh always said, for mysteries unknown, stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, remember, a legend always begins with a sighting. Have a good night, everybody. I'll talk to you later.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?